Welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. Uh, I'm not going to ask you how you're doing. I already know that. That's why you're here, but everything's going to be okay. As hopefully you know, my name is Jonathan Grossman, and we're going to be doing the first today of what will be 3 webinars throughout the bar prep season to hopefully give you some practical tips on bar prep overall, how to use the AdaptiBar program a little more efficiently, make sure you're maximizing it, whether you're taking a full bar course or not, and guiding you along as to kind of where you should be, what you should worry about, what you shouldn't be worrying about. So today is more of an overview of bar prep, how I like to break up bar prep into first half and second half, and some goals for you so you can accomplish these between now and when we meet again in a couple of weeks. And then one of those sessions, we're actually going to walk through a handful of questions to kind of show you how the best ways are for reading comp, avoid getting it down to 2, second guessing, etc. And then we're going to do on early July, what do I do in those last couple of weeks? Because whether you're taking a course, the courses usually end early July, or if you're not, people kind of get a little antsy. What should I be doing right before the bar? So this is kind of bar prep overall and some fundamentals. We'll then walk through some questions end of this month about preparing you for simulated tests, practice tests, etc., making sure you're getting more bang for your buck with the questions themselves. And then, like I said, early July, kind of wrap up, well, okay, what should you be doing now going into the last couple of weeks before the bar? So in most of these, I'm going to always discuss both client bases here, so to speak, the first-time takers and the repeat takers. There are some basic fundamentals that apply to everybody, and then there's some unique little features I like to kind of contrast what you guys who are doing this for the first time, having just graduated, and or if you've done this before, what you should or shouldn't be worrying about. So some things I'll talk to all of you guys, and then I will specify. Overall, what I like to say, no matter who you are, you can't pass or fail the bar in early June. The only way you can have trouble in early June is if you fall behind what I think is the priority between now and the end of this month, which is the black letter law. The stats don't matter. The quantity doesn't matter. People ask me about hours and questions. There's no number, because if there were, and all these people were doing all these numbers and questions, everybody would have passed. The issue is, are you doing it the right way? So let's take a step back. Every MBE question, no matter what subject, is based on 2 things: 50% black letter law, 50% reading comp. That's it. What else could they expect you to do in 1.8 minutes per question? So whether it's property or tort or civ pro, all they're really testing you on is the black letter and the reading comp. Half the country overdoes it with the law and relies too much on their raw knowledge of law. Doesn't do enough reading. The other half of the country bolts on the lectures and the outlines and the courses and just practices all day. They don't know enough black letter law. Most people, no matter who you are, live during bar prep between 55 and 65% correct, give or take. Right? Now, that's the good and the bad news. Because if you don't fix the reason why you're missing the questions, that's why you never get over the top. And so many people will tell me, I've done 5,000 questions, 6,000 questions, I've done AdaptiBar 5 times, I can't break 57, 61, 59. The number stays the same. That's because you're literally spinning the wheels in the mud. You're not going anywhere because you're not fixing why you're getting the question wrong. That's what I want to talk about today. So starting bar prep, beginning bar prep, number 1. Don't overwhelm yourself. You can't simulate the bar today. You're not doing 200 question tests. To me, that's a waste of time, okay? People talk about these diagnostic tests and this. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. I'll give you the diagnosis, okay? You don't know a lot of stuff, okay? So your pros and cons, your strong area, your weak. If you're a first-time taker, most of you haven't even looked at tort and crim law or property for 2 or 3 years, assuming you even learned it during law school. So what the hell are you going to do from guessing for 50 questions? The repeat taker, the same. Let me see where I'm at. Most of you, and I would be in the same boat, most of you haven't looked at questions since God knows when, or the law. So just to do the questions for the sake of doing the questions to see where you're at, you're going to get about half right and half wrong. And if you guess right on a handful of questions and your score is 63, 65, 60, you have a false sense of security that maybe you're doing pretty well. but it may just be because you guessed right on a handful of questions. That doesn't mean you know what you're doing. So, big picture. If you're a first-time taker, they're giving you those lectures. Is there too much information? Yes. Is the book too long? Yes. Are you getting overwhelmed now? Yes. All true. Yes. That's why the goal, not easy in some subjects, the goal is to extract the black, bold, italicized rules from those books and those lectures. Keep your outlines lean and mean. Less is more. They're testing you on the elements. In between the definitions are paragraphs of explanations and examples. I defend the companies. They're assuming you know nothing. Okay, many of you don't know anything. So you read the rule or you're watching the lecture and you read the rule and you say, I don't really know what that means. I never heard of that before. Well, you need the examples and the explanations beneath it to understand what it means, because otherwise you're just writing down rote words. On the other hand, you know what the word intent means, you know what harmful and you know what offensive means. So reading 15 examples of a guy hitting someone over the head with a baseball bat, that's what harmful means. That to me is a waste of time. You may want to do it because it's making you feel good that you are comprehensive. I have no problem. Go ahead. But in terms of your notes, your outlines, your memorization, don't cloud with all the filler. Stick to the definition. Add the explanations and examples from the material when you don't know. Yes, we want you to understand everything, of course. But the key is they're only still testing you on the black letter. So your outline, your note card, whatever you're comfortable with, should be lean and mean and condensed. Don't be what I call a stenographer and just write everything down. Don't highlight the whole book. Those outlines, 75, 100 pages, you can't know all that times seven. That's the problem. So black letter as much as you can and add and include an example or an explanation when you need to. Of course, good. Repeat taker. You've made the outlines already. You got 14 versions of them, okay? Pick the most condensed one. Don't read them all. Don't go looking for more stuff, okay? Don't. Stick to the most condensed version that you have. And then if and when you need to read a little more detailed book or a little more detailed outline that your friend gave you or that you have from the box under your desk that you're afraid to open, okay. But remember, you only do that to supplement what you don't know. The most important thing that the companies don't talk about is once you do get the law down and you've got a good document or set of note cards, the number one priority is to begin constant repetition and recitation of those words. Most of you, if you started bar prep, if you're taking a course, you're into the second MBE topic, maybe the third. I mean, I know everyone's on a different schedule. I'm just generalizing. So the key is not whether you got 50% or 70% on a set of questions today. The key is whatever material, whatever law you've already covered in your course, or if you're a repeat taker, you're flying through the subjects. What the key is how much of this law that you're studying now, and you've already studied, are you going to remember next week, 2 weeks, and on July 1st, let alone July 28 and 29? Because again, as I say all the time, you can't cram 7 subjects in July, but even if you know it today, it's a long way to keep it in your head. And what too many students do, respectfully, is they go back and they read the notes over and over again. Okay? Over and over again. Critical pass flashcards. I get this question. I think critical pass flashcards are great. There's no problem with them. But right now, you don't need to be reading your outline and the critical pass flashcards. The law says the same. But even if you're reading your critical pass or your outline, whatever you're using, they're both great. The key is if you're reading it, it's like sugar. It feels great because you're literally saying in here, I know it, I know it, I know it. The key is if I pull the cards away from you, what do you know? Because when they go on to the third subject, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and then you come back and do practice questions, the number one email I get, hey, John, I was at 70% on June 2nd. Now I'm at 55. What happened? Well, you forgot enough of the law because you're too busy doing 4 other subjects. That's bar prep. Whether you're a first-time or repeat taker, most people are worried about how fast they're going. I want you to worry about what happened last week, about what you already did. What I call bring the law forward with you. Okay? How do I do that? How do I keep all this information in my head? Constant repetition. The words. When you're not officially studying, I say this all, breakfast, lunch, dinner, Starbucks run, doing the laundry, watching a little TV. You're going to watch the ball game tonight? Go right ahead. There's a TV timeout every 4 minutes. put the volume on mute, recite some rules. The only way to know what you do know is to prove it to yourself. More importantly, the only way to know what you're forgetting is to test yourself. If you're reading it over and over again, you don't know what you know. And what I like to say is most bar students don't know what they don't know because all they're doing is reading and going forward. That's why it's such a shock to the system when they take their practice tests and they bomb a couple of subjects because they don't realize that they're not bringing the law forward with them. Not every day is perfect. Some days are better than others. Don't ask me how many hours. Time. You're brushing your teeth. You're microwaving the bad pizza. You go for a walk. Incorporate the rest of every time you're in your car, wherever you are. Don't listen to the lecture. You be the professor. Speak. Once you realize you can't remember, I don't know that. Now I'm going to go home. I'll grab my notes and I'll shove it back in my head. No one ever has it. I got this. Your stuff's always going to be falling out. That's the nature of bar prep. But that's okay. As long as you're recognizing what you're forgetting, you're bringing more of those rules forward. So you can do what I'm going to hope you're in a position to do in July when we meet for the last time. Practice taking the test. The way to use AdaptiBar's bank of questions, in my opinion, the most effectively is to put yourself in a position so that by July, you can be doing 40, 45, 50 questions a day, 7 days a week, and really firming up your stamina, concentration, timing, blah, blah, blah. If you do too much of that now, number one, you'll exhaust too many questions and then you'll see too many repeat questions. And three, you're going to make too many mistakes now because you're not armed with enough of the law. Black letter now. Until you take your first simulated practice exam, or until you're done with your review, if you're a repeat taker not following a course, until you're done with all 7 foundational reviews of your MBE subjects, okay? Everything should be 3/4 law, 1/4 practice. More law review and some practice, so that at the end of June and all of July, it could be 3/4 practice and a little review. I talk about prioritizing, not neglecting. So if you're a first-time taker out there using AdaptiBar to supplement your course, I recommend Monday to Friday when they're giving you the lectures and their practice. Follow your course, okay? Follow the course. You do the practice questions that they're telling you to do. On the weekend, you review the law from whatever you've already done first. Friday night, Saturday. Some of you have a lecture on Saturday night or Sunday morning. The first thing on the weekend is you do another good, thorough review of the law you already covered. Then you want to go into the question bank and do 10, 15, 20 practice questions of those topics you've already reviewed as an affirmation, a confirmation. I got this. I'm reading well. I got it. That's a great idea. Repeat taker. I'm not doing the course, John. Okay. I talk to people all the time. Yeah, I looked at Tort. I did 50 questions. But do you know Tort? Since you're not doing a course and you've done a course or maybe a couple of them or a couple times through Barbary, etc. You have the material. Don't fly through to start the question. Really study and memorize the rules first. You've done 4,000, 3,000, 6,000 questions already, okay? If just doing questions would make you pass, respectfully, you wouldn't be here right now. That's my point. I want you to focus on getting more correct, not just doing more work, right? And if most of you who did a lot of great work and missed it by 2, 3, 5, 6, 6.5, 3.5, etc., it's not the quantity of work, it's you need a couple of more questions correct. That's from fixing the underlying mistakes. Some of those mistakes in a bunch of those subjects are those stupid buzzwords. Larceny by trick, false pretenses, character impeachment, equal protection due process, IIED, NIED, negligence per se res ipsa. I can do this all day. Hundreds of these rules look the same, sound the same, mean basically the same, but there's a little elemental definitional difference. If your outline's too long, and you're just mushed with all the words together, or you've practiced too many questions and never put the law in your head, half your mistakes are coming from which buzzword goes with which rule. That's why so many people get it down to 2. The reason you like the other answer is because it looks good. It looks good because it contains phrases and words and buzzwords that you remember from your outline. You just can't remember which one it goes with. So either whoever you are, first time or repeat taker, be honest with yourself and make sure you're over focusing on the rules first so you give yourself a chance to do better on the questions. Use your course during the week and AdaptiBar on the weekend for now. Repeat taker, law, Monday, Tuesday, if you're working. Hey, John, I can't do that. Okay, use the week, the couple hours after work at night to really focus on the law. No one can do 20 property questions at 9 o'clock at night after a work day and know what the hell they're doing. Okay? So don't put the pressure on yourself. Study property from Monday to Friday. Sit on the couch and put the extra effort in the memorization of those buzzwords. So on Saturday morning or Sunday, that's when you do more questions. For those of you that are working, I don't have the time for all this, John. Okay, I agree with you. Then overemphasize the law review during the week, and then you have time to practice on the weekend. Quality over quantity. Number two, we're talking about this time of year. Don't obsess over the stats, okay? I know many of you, especially in the law school community, you just graduated, starting to take the bar. I like to joke to my own students, you don't even go by your names anymore, right? You just say, hey, how you doing today? 62%. How you doing today? 52%, man. You're just obsessed with the damn stat, okay? I want you to put a post-it next to your laptop that says, why? Why am I at 65? Why am I at 55? Is it the rule or is it the reading comp? The only way to improve with your practice is to know why you made the mistake. And it won't be the same for every subject. It'll be different. So when you get a question wrong and you read the explanation, and again, we're going to talk a lot about this now, okay? Because this is about using AdaptiBar, I think, effectively, not just doing a lot of work. You hit the button, right? And there's a little nausea in the pit of your stomach and in your throat. Please be green, please. Oh, hey, oh, red, red. Oh, you know that feeling, right? Genius, idiot, genius, idiot. You know what I'm talking about. If you're wrong in the first two lines of the explanation, they're going to give you the rule. If you read that sentence and you know you knew that rule, yeah, I knew that, then the rest of the explanation is just going to give you more law. You need to go back to the facts and see what you missed, what you read too quick, what you didn't see. It was the man, not the friend. He took the watch, but he didn't intend to steal it. I missed that. If you know the definition, then reading more law is a waste of time. Your problem is what you missed in the facts. Go back to the facts, study that hypo, and say, oh, this is what I missed. Flag that question, whatever you need to do, star it, etc. If you read the sentence, I forgot that he's right. I confused trespass to chattel and conversion. I confused larceny by admissions with statement against interest. Then that's a sign to you. I need to go review those rules after I finish my practice set. Have a list of those rules that you're still forgetting, confusing, whatever it is. No big deal. Just recognize that. I'm not a person that promotes taking all the answers and creating an Excel spread. You guys love your Excel spreadsheets. An Excel spreadsheet of all the wrong. No, because then it's just a document. Okay. You love making documents. You want to work for West Publishing? You still need to pass the bar exam. Okay. So there are two piles, I call them. The rule pile are the list on your legal pad of the rules that you're still forgetting or confused. Those you make a list, and those are the ones you run around your house, in your car, take a walk, wherever you are. If you have a dog, walk the dog, make the dog the smartest dog in the neighborhood by spitting out the elements. The questions over here that you missed, this pile, no, I knew all this. On the weekend, first timer, repeat taker, whatever, or for my repeater friends, if you're working again, I'm good with the law on one night, John. I don't want to, you're telling me you're right. I'm too tired to do questions. What else could I do at night? I would go and look at some of those past missed questions and study them. I mean, study them. Like you study the law? Yeah, see, every time I miss these questions, I know what negligence is, but half the time the guy's never liable for negligence. I kind of assume it's negligence. And the theft crimes, burglary, robbery, larceny, I always pick guilty because he always gets the watch. But now I see if I read slowly, most of the time he doesn't intend to steal the watch. I got to focus on my reading. I see what he's saying. In these answer choices, I'm anticipating where the question is going. I'm not reading the facts carefully. Slow down. This is what I say every week. So if you study those hypos on the weekend, in the evening, and really be honest with yourself and see what you're doing wrong, the next time you do another set of criminal law, property, or tort, you're going to be more aware of what those mistakes are, more focused, more concentrated on why you're missing the question. If you're just doing them and you're worrying about the number, you're literally going to keep making the same mistake. So the number is just a reflection of how you're doing today, but there's no carryover. That's the other problem for my first-time takers. You get 80% today. Great. It's a good job on those questions. But tomorrow, clean slate, we're all back to zero. That's the problem with bar prep. You want to feel great all the time. Bar prep does not allow that to happen. My repeat takers, that's why, again, I say, you've done so many questions, most of you. You get too focused on doing more and more and more, but you recognize more and more and more questions. So when you're getting 88% on one day, is it really because you knew what you were doing or just because you recognize a lot of questions? Your brain almost goes on autopilot and you almost know where the answer is, even if you don't. That's cheating because ultimately on the bar, it's not going to feel like that. So you want to really focus on these fundamentals. Do I really know that? Do I really know that rule? Do I really know these rules? Maybe he's right. Maybe instead of doing 50, I should go back and review more of the rules first and then get back with my questions. So then when I'm missing the ones based on the reading comp, I can be more aware and review those at night or on the weekend for myself. Then when you set yourself up after your full 7 subject review and we get to the end of June into July and I say, hey, 35, 40, 45 a day, mixed set, blah, I'm simulating the exam. Hey, now you know so much law, you'll be much more in that practice mode we're talking about, the exam mode. I'm really practicing taking the test cold turkey. I don't need my outline in front of me because I know enough law. Might make it more about the law now and the more practice later. So my first time takers, your course during the week, extra practice on AdaptiBar on the weekend. My repeat takers, especially those that are working, again, overemphasize knowledge of law first. You can do some questions during the week, small, two or three, 4 or 5, 6. It's not about the number. Am I reading them correctly? That's the key. And then you can do more practice on the weekend. Okay. And just be totally inclusive, even though we're all talking about MBE. As you now know, AdaptiBar has an excellent writing program for my essay people out there. Again, at the beginning of bar prep, you do what your course tells you. You write when they tell you to write. Okay. And under the time limits. You can't finish something, or for my repeat takers, you want to practice your writing, focus on the law Monday to Friday, and do more of the writing on the weekend. No one can write a lucid essay at 9 o'clock at night after a whole day of work and some studying. So make the week more the study, and the weekend more of your practice. As far as MBE, again, the number is just a reflection of where you are today. Again, think about this way. Stay with me on this with the math, because all of you are going to ask me, where should I be, John? Remember, by the end of July, not today, I'm trying to be honest with you, by the end of July on exam day, a realistic goal, it's not necessary in every jurisdiction, I'm being recorded, don't hold me to this, but a goal would be mid-60s raw score. You mush all the 7 subjects together. You could be at 70 in some, you could be at 60 in a few others. That's later. Right now, again, as I said, most of the country lives between the low to mid 50s and the mid 60s, give or take, right? Think about this. If you stink at a subject and your floor is 50%, on the real bar exam, if there's 28 contract questions, that means you'd be getting 14 right. By the end of July, where do you want to be? 17 or 18 correct? The problem when you're doing so many questions now is you get into these numbers when you're doing hundreds and hundreds of questions in a subject. But ultimately, you're only doing 28, 29 questions in a given subject. So really, you're just trying to improve by a few questions by exam day. The key is which areas of the law can you improve? So when you start doing contract practice, oh, I'm at 52, I stink at contracts. A lot of people bail on the outline or they bail on the subject overall. Don't do that. You may be weaker in areas of contracts or property. Everyone thinks of contract remedies. That's the worst subtopic of all 7 subjects. But you can get parole evidence a little better, formation a little better, third party a little better. So don't think that the number is a reflection of the whole subject. Find those areas of law that you actually can improve. Or again, you may know all the law for formation, but you're just needing a couple of extra practice questions to see what those formation questions look like. That's my other big point. A lot of people know a lot of these underlying rules, but they get frustrated because they're getting the question wrong, especially for my first time takers out there. You need to see some of these hypos and almost get them wrong just so you can see what they look like. You could know the law for third party and assignment and quote that out of your outline, but until you see what a third party question looks like, it's totally, there's a disconnect. You with me? You could know a lot of con law, but until you see what an equal protection question looks like, that's totally different. So don't get frustrated when you say, I know all these rules, John. I trust you, sort of. Okay. If you really know the law, don't worry about missing it now in June. That's why they call it practice. It's not definitive of passing the bar. You need to see a lot of this stuff because remember, all of this stuff was taught to us in garbage BSing essay format. You didn't have to do it in multiple choice format. So it's a huge disconnect between what I learned and now what it looks like. So again, I say to my repeat takers, if you were just practicing too much the last one or two times and say, I know the law, do you really? And if you do, okay, study the mistakes more. Study why you're getting them wrong. Focus more on the reading comprehension. Okay? I talk about first half and second half of bar prep. Okay. The first half of bar prep for my first time takers is when they give you your company, whichever you're doing, the simulated MBE exam, the first full blown out practice test for all 7 subjects. You want to get to that date and know as much black letter law of MBE as you possibly can. So when you take that test, you're more confident, and God willing, you score higher. And after they do that review, your company isn't going back to MBE anymore. They're going to fill in with all the other essay subjects or the non-MBE topics or MPTs for certain jurisdictions, etc. So when I tell you when we see each other in the next couple of times, hey, now if you know the law, here's a time to do the practice and here's how much practice, you want to feel like you can get online, closed book, and do that kind of practice. So you overemphasize the knowledge of the law until they give you that simulated test. For my repeat takers, I wouldn't be doing 100 question tests and 200 question tests on June 4th or 5th. No, I would be doing one subject at a time, really know the law. Then I'm doing 10, 15 questions a day, 7 to 50, again, depending on your schedule, work, you get my point. Quality over quantity is my point. Just enough that you're lucid and sane, not with one eye closed because it's 6 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. Some more practice on the weekend. Key. Once you finish subject number one, you review tort, you did pretty well. Okay, now I'm going to start evidence. Okay, as you're doing evidence, you're going through the outline, memorizing the law. 20 times a day, when you're not actually studying, recite some of those tort rules to yourself. Keep the law at the tip of your tongue. For my first time takers, like I said, as they go forward from one subject to the next, you got to bring that law from subject number one and subject number two forward, because then otherwise, before the simulated, you got to go back and cram 7 subjects. You don't want to do that. Will you ever know everything perfectly? No. But as long as you realize what you're forgetting, it's easier to kind of scoop it up. Crumbs are always going to fall. That's fine. It is for everybody. You just don't want the whole loaf of bread falling out of the bag. A couple of crumbs every day, easy to scoop up, know what you're doing. Move forward with more law. So for my repeat takers, I'm not taking a course, John. Okay, get through each of the 7 subjects. And as you get through number one, if you have time, you do a couple of questions either during the week or on the weekend. You don't have time during the week, on Saturday morning. You know what? I'm going to do a quick 5-minute review of tort. That was the first subject. Now let me do 2 or 3 tort questions. I already did evidence. Let me review evidence. I do another 3 or 4 evidence questions. Just do a couple of questions in whatever subjects you reviewed. Once you're done with all 7, do you need to take a full blown out test? No. On AdaptiBar, you have those 100 question simulated exams. I usually recommend those again in July before the exam. But if you want to take one, half when you're done, you're with your initial review just to kind of give yourself that check, where am I? That's perfectly fine. But remember, all of these practice things don't define passing or failing. They all just talk about where are you on that particular day. So don't be too confident because also what happens? Some people, especially my repeat takers, are doing really well early because you're familiar with the questions and it's a false sense of security. It's the retention of the law. My first time takers also, it's easy because you're so desperate for some positive reinforcement that when you score well on a practice set, you feel like $1,000,000. I understand and I'm proud of you. But there's no carryover, like I said earlier. So The maintenance of being able to score 75% today and 75% a week or two from now in that same material is the retention of the black letter law. That's the key. So make sure that you're overemphasizing the law so that you can do more of that consistent practice later. The other big thing, as far as AdaptiBar is concerned, the more of these questions that you blow through in early June, the less fresh questions you're going to see in July. And that's a big problem for a lot of you. You do too many practice. By the way, for my first time takers, again, these are just tips. You're doing your bar course. They assign you 20, 25 questions, whatever it is. Even if you're doing well, and you're done early. I don't recommend jumping on AdaptiBar on a Wednesday night and doing another 20 questions. Okay? I don't. Again, as I said, I recommend if you still have some bandwidth at 9 o'clock at night to keep focusing on your review, your memorization of the law you've already done. Maybe you have another practice essay you can do, anything like that, or review your missed questions. Why again am I saying this? Because if you're doing too many tort or property questions at this point, you're going to end up doing 150 or 200 of those questions. And now all of a sudden by July, when you want to see more fresh questions, too many look familiar. And then you complain, I'm getting 88%, but they're all the same questions I've seen, John. Where can I get more questions? You don't need more questions. That's what your course is for. If you've done this before, my repeat taker, I know, John, you hit me on the head. I was getting 85% last time, but what am I going to do if I recognize these questions? No matter who you are, but it affects repeaters more now. Even no matter who you are, you're going to see some repeat questions. There's no way around that. The people who don't use the program correctly just say, oh, I've seen this one, it's A, and they click A, and they're at 90%. Okay, good for you, but it doesn't really mean anything, obviously. Some people say, I've seen this question, I remembered I picked A, but I know the right answer is B. I'll just pick B. Look, I'm right, you see? But based on what I said at the beginning, you want to focus on why did I pick A last time? Why was I wrong? What rule are they talking about here? Almost imagine like you're teaching the question to a class. Explain in your head, hear yourself walk through why each answer is wrong, why you made the mistake, and why you now see that B is wrong. If you know why your previous answer was wrong, if you know why that answer is correct, when you pick B, even though you know it's right, it's actually much more valuable. That skill will carry over to fresh questions that you've never seen. You with me? Don't just click buttons for the sake of clicking buttons and see a stat, because that's not going to carry over on the bar, because then you're not going to see 200 familiar questions. You'll see 200 familiar fact patterns potentially, but differently worded questions. This is where I get into my commercial. The one part of the business I don't like, even though I'm a capitalist, I never want to feel like I'm a used car salesman. AdaptiBar, the company, myself, we literally hope you know me a little bit. You know the company. We're really here to help you. We want everyone to pass genuinely. That's why we're breaking this stuff down. So if you have a good outline, if you are doing your bar course and you're feeling decent about the law, you're fine. If there's a part of the lecture, I just don't get product liability. I don't get hearsay. Okay. You've read an outline, you've made an outline, you've done this a couple of times, and you just don't understand a part of it, as I'm sure many of you do know, but if you don't, let me tell you, there are AdaptiBar video lectures on the program. That's me. You'll note that when you click tort or property or crim law, the videos are broken down into little subtopics: homicide, inchoate crime, crim pro. So if you feel like, hey, I'm killing tort, but no matter what I do, John, I stink at products liability. I just don't understand it. You can literally go on tort, product liability, and just click the product liability button and just watch that portion of the video. I'm a capitalist. I'm not trying to cheat myself or the company out of money, but you don't need to waste 2.5 other hours or the money on a whole tort video if a little piece will fix it for you. That's how you can use the law part of the system and feel better with the law, and then you're all set. If you never learned con law in law school and you're taking your bar course, or you've done this before and you're still reading the same notes that don't make any sense for the third time, yes, then I can break down con law in a much more simple, condensed manner in about 3.5 hours compared to a lot of the other material out there and give you a strong knowledge and broken down into the concepts so you can go attack the real questions. So If you're a first-time taker, you stick to your bar course. Yes, do not bail on your bar course. I'm saying it, I mean it from the bottom of my heart because I'm trying to be condensed. But if you don't have the context of this information, you need the full lecture to really hear those extra examples. If after you watch the con law lecture, you're confused about pieces or all, and you say, what am I going to do? Go read a 100-page outline now? No, then you can go on AdaptiBar and get me because you already have your notes. I'll just help you kind of condense it, like the big snow, and I can make it into a good snowball. Okay? So you do your course absolutely to get the whole gist of everything. And then I could come in on the weekend or later after the lecture and really give you some organization and structure. If you know a material very, very well and there's just a portion that's causing you a problem, you can just get that too. Hmm? One video that is not really understood or known by a lot of people is the video that's on AdaptiBar called Mastering the MBE. That's me for about an hour and 20 minutes, really breaking down how to read the questions, why you're getting it down to two, how to stop doing that. Should you read the call of the question first? And if you do, fine, but what's the problem with that? What should you be looking out for? What's really going on in those answer choices? All of that stuff. So if you find as you're moving through bar prep right now that no matter how well you know the law, and I'm killing tort, but when I do the practice questions, whether in my course or on AdaptiBar, I'm not seeing the results that I need, that mastering the MBE video will really break down why most of you are making some of those reading mistakes. You don't need it. That's perfectly okay. I'm not trying to be, like I say, a used car salesman. I just don't want you wasting hundreds of questions and then getting frustrated. Why am I still at 57%? If you feel you really know the law, it's got to be the reading comp. Check out the Mastering the MBE video, and it's going to give you some very, very detailed practical skills of how to break down each question. Okay, so when we get to the third webinar and I say, okay, hopefully you know the law, you're feeling better how you're reading the questions, here's how to practice all of July to prepare for the bar. That's why I'm saying that. So you focus on what I call the fundamentals now, and then you can practice that much more and that much faster at the end of July. Good? So for now, what are we talking about? Don't exhaust the questions. And lastly, as far as the questions themselves, like I said, don't overemphasize the details of all the explanations. The explanations on AdaptiBar are written the best of all the companies, in my humble opinion. I don't write them. Smarter people than me do that, but I know them. But they're, again, really, again, emphasizing a lot of the law. So again, a lot of people, in my opinion, waste too much time reading too much of that and adding to their notes. And now they're clouding up the most important part of their outline, which is the black letter, which is the definition. If you know it, it's got to be the reading comp, and that's coming from the facts. You don't know it, and sometimes a lot of my first-time takers out there will know what I'm talking about. You're watching a lecture, you're writing down the rule, you don't understand what it means. You read the explanation, you still don't get it. You do a question, say, that explanation, that really shined a light on it. Now I think I understand the law. I'll be damned. Now I know what it looks like. You can copy and paste the rule right there in the AdaptiBar explanation into your notes. Now you know exactly what it looks like. That's great using the program to help you. But remember, AdaptiBar is a supplement for your bar prep. So let's go back. You're a first-time taker. You're doing your main course. What do I do with AdaptiBar? Right now, you follow your course Monday to Friday with the law and the practice. You overemphasize that review and recitation of law. So when you get to the weekend and you feel like, hey, I'm feeling pretty good about evidence. I think I know this. Let me go on AdaptiBar and do 10 or 15 questions on the weekend, 20 maybe, and say just that should prove, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Now go back to focusing on more law for the next week. You get to week 2 or 3. Now they've done 2 or 3 subjects. You're feeling good with the 2 or 3. Do 5 or 10 or 15 evidence, 5 or 10, 15 tort. You get them 5 or 10 or 15 in each of those subjects moving forward. You're done with all 7. Now you're ready for the simulated and we're good to go. You're a repeat taker. Overemphasize your real memorization of those rules. First, smaller amounts of questions at the beginning. Once you finish a question review of tort, I recommend, again, 7, 10, 15 a day. You get to about 50 total questions over the course of a couple of days, and you're feeling pretty good. Okay, it's time to move along. As you then begin to review the law for the second subject, Make sure you're maintaining that retention of those rules, more of the buzzwords at the tip of your tongue, and one or two questions a day. Maybe. Again, if you're working, I can't do the questions. Leave them for the weekend. As long as you're retaining the law, the questions will take care of themselves. More law now, less practice. Don't exhaust the program. Don't, if you understand what your course is saying, God bless, great. But you may want to check out the Mastering the MBE video if your problem, again, is the reading comp. I'm not seeing the stats based on the raw knowledge that I know. Okay, that will fix it. If you can focus on getting to the next couple of weeks till we see each other again and say, John, by the time I see you, I'm feeling really better about my strong knowledge of law. And by the way, if you have a bad week, again, work week, first time taker, the course is driving you crazy. To me, this is the worst time of bar prep, by the way, these couple of weeks until you finish all seven. It can feel like, walking up Mount Everest barefoot. Again, another day, you feel like you're getting overwhelmed with the law. When you feel overwhelmed, reduce everything to its bare bone minimum, which is the black letter law and the reading. All the other examples, talking explanations, garbage. You use that when you need to understand the law. But ultimately, what are they testing you on? The black letter. You use AdaptiBar on the weekend for the extra practice, so you set yourself up for the end of June and July to be able to do 40 or 50 a day and use the program, the maximum amount of the bank of questions to really lock in and prepare for the bar. You have a true problem with the law, that's what the lecture videos are there for you, in whole or in part. The Mastering the MBE video will be very centered and focused on teaching you or showing you why you're making some of those mistakes. You may want to watch that, take good notes, and then apply it to those questions. On the weekend, when you have a little more time, or during the week when you're burnt out at 9 o'clock, review more of the past mistakes that you made based on the reading. See what you're doing wrong. Be honest with yourself. Are you reading too fast? Are you jumping into an answer before you read the facts? You read the facts, but you liked another answer better and ignored what you were just reading. All of these things are signs that are going to translate to all the subjects. So if you're doing it in tort or property, you're going to do it in criminal also. Earlier you see and try to fix these mistakes, the easier of a time you're going to have in July. First half of bar prep in June, you overemphasize the law with some practice in your program and on AdaptiBar. So in the second half of bar prep, when the 7 subjects are reviewed, that's when you can do more practice tests, practice sets, etc. It's all about the black letter law. It's all about the reading comprehension. You're using the material, whatever you're using, to extract the black letter law so you can practice on the questions the right way. Don't do too much AdaptiBar today and then have no good questions to look at in July. Okay, there's a finite number of these questions that the bar has released. So use the program the way it was meant. If you're having any problems with the writing program, that's not me, but it's fantastic, wonderful. So if you use AdaptiBar for the writing program, again, just like MBE, I strongly believe the more you practice, even if you're bad at it at the beginning, which most people are, because writing a bar essay is not the same thing as writing a law school final exam essay. People misunderstand that. They think they're a good writer, but they don't understand how different this is based on the time constraints and all those things. So use the program there for that too. Practice based on law, and then come July, you literally can be practicing taking the test every day. That's what we're going to discuss in the last webinar coming up in early July. So fundamentals are black letter law now and less practice. Focus practice, learn from those mistakes, use the AdaptiBar lectures or Mastering the MBE where you feel it can help you so you can be more efficient with your time when you're sitting and doing those questions. Quality over quantity. Don't shove them in. Don't read too fast. Just because you do X number does not mean you're going to pass. And what do I like to say? You're reading the question slow. You see that answer. Your gut and the little voice inside you says A is the answer. Even if I don't understand it, even if I don't like it, I know in my gut A is the right answer because I also know that B, C, and D are wrong. What does John tell you to do? Shut up and pick it. Keep up the great work. I'll see you soon.